Hi, my name's Adam. A few friends have asked if I could comment on the accident that occurred yesterday in Washington between the CRJ and the H-60. My background, I'm a former Royal Air Force helicopter pilot, flew Chinooks and Apaches while with the British Army. About 3,000 hours rotary wing, 1,000 of which are on night vision devices. Extensive experience flying in controlled airspace in some of the busiest in the world in London Heathrow. Very close proximity to airliners, so quite used to the pitfalls of doing this, especially at night in urban areas on night vision devices. Done a lot of that work in the past. Going to use this VAS aviation video here. Done a great job of pulling together the audio and the visual for the both aircraft as they're running in. So you will see a sort of a plan view of the radar trace with some of the audio from the tower as well. So what I'll do is I'll pause it in between some of the radio calls and try and explain what I think is happening at this point and perhaps where the critical points for failure have occurred. Okay, first and foremost, just to explain what we're seeing here, the blue dots are the radar tracks. Green text here is the description of the radar tracks. So we've got PAT-25, that's one of the aircraft involved. And then we've got some of the other aircraft down here. Now, I believe the CRJ that was involved in the accident is actually the track that's down here. It's just coming in off the bottom of the screen. So in the center of the screen here, we've got Reagan Airport. There's 3 runways here. 2 of them are active at the moment. We've got runway 33. That's a very important runway to focus on here. 33 meaning 330. That's the bearing, sort of more northwesterly. And then we've got runway 01. That's the heading of this runway. Runway 010 is the bearing if it was on a compass rose. So for those of you who aren't particularly familiar with compasses and aviation, or you want a refresher, north is a heading of 000, east is 090, that's over here, west is 270, that's facing in this direction over here, and south is 180. So if we say we have a runway of heading of 33, if we're parked in an aircraft facing on that runway heading, then the compass is going to read 330-ish, and we're going to be pointing up the runway towards the top of the screen here. Runway 01 is 010. It's going to be pointed on this runway here, just right of north. If we were on that runway in an aircraft, then that's what the compass would read, and we'd be looking this way up towards the north. Likewise, if an aircraft is setting up to land on runway 01, then it's lined up to land on this heading. So where my mouse cursor is, it's coming in like so to land on 01. If it's coming in on 33, then the compass is going to read 330, and it's coming in to land on this runway that's orientated on 33 there. Just some runway basics.
Tower 5342 on Mount Vernon visual runway 1.
Blue Sheep 5342, Washington Tower 1 star 32017, gust 25. Can you take runway 33?
Yeah, we can do 33 for Blue Sheep 5342.
Blue Sheep.
Okay, so Blue Streak 5342 has been cleared to land runway 33. So this is important. This aircraft here, 5307, he's actually heading in to land on runway 01. But one of our collision aircraft here is now being cleared to land on runway 33, and I think that's the call sign there, 5342. So PAT-25 is 1, 5342 is the CRJ that's eventually involved in the accident.
5342, that's Wilson Bridge, thanks for runway 33, runway 33, clear to land.
Change to runway 33, runway 33 for land with 5342.
Okay, so we've just heard the voice of one of the pilots involved there, one of the fatalities. Bless him, but that was him acknowledging the clearance to land there. Now, this point is worth focusing on because this pilot in PAT-25, he's probably listening to these conversations, and he's hearing some aircraft that are lined up to land on runway 01. He may or may not have heard this initial radio call of this aircraft being set up to land on 33. So he may be under the impression that this aircraft is still coming in for runway 01. And you'll hear throughout this tape that the air traffic controller is trying to tell him, hey, there's aircraft lining up for runway 33. Now, he does acknowledge that. I think he does. We don't hear the helicopter's transmissions in this audio, but I have heard on other video playbacks the pilot acknowledging the presence of the 3-3 traffic, but whether he truly understood is another question. Situational awareness is one of the hardest things to cope with as a pilot, and it's often a driver of accidents, as we'll see here.
Jet 789, 1 star 320 to 15, Gus Q5, traffic 2 out, no delay, runway 1 for takeoff.
Okay, pause again. So we've got an aircraft just been cleared for takeoff from runway 01. Notice the wind though, if I just go back there to this part of the audio. So the wind speed has been given 320 at 15, gusting 25. That's a pretty strong wind. Now, pilots always like to take off as directly into wind as possible. So the wind is coming pretty much straight from the northwest here in the direction I'm moving the arrow now. So if you're a pilot, you would like to take off pointing into that as best as possible, because it reduces your ground speed, increases your airspeed. Notice in this case, though, we've got pretty stiff crosswind here. Actually, what would be better for the pilot would be to take off on this runway, but he's here at the moment, he can probably accept that. But for the landing aircraft, runway 33 would make sense because the wind is coming from 320. Bit confusing because we take off on the runway heading, but the wind is given from that heading, 320. Wind is coming from this point in the compass, but we take off towards 330 that way. So that, yeah, forgive the confusion, aviators will understand, but effectively what it means is that it makes more sense for aircraft that are landing to position for this point, but aircraft that are already about to take off on 01.
5, traffic 2 out, no delay, runway 1 for takeoff.
Takeoff, runway 1, no delay. Washington Tower, American 3130 with you, runway 1.
American 3130, Washington Tower, 1 star 310 to 14, Gus Q5, runway 1 clear to land, traffic with may depart prior to arrival.
Okay, clear to land, runway 1, American 3130.
Okay, that's another aircraft clear to land on runway 1. That's this aircraft here. Okay, so I'll pause at this point. So here comes American 3131. 5307 has been cleared to land on runway 01. 3130 has been cleared to land on runway 01. But look, we can start to see 5342, which is one of the aircraft involved in the accident, is starting to brake to the right to position for runway 33. So this is almost an outlier. Like the pilot here, the PAT-25 may not have picked up on the fact that we've got two aircraft lined up for 01, but this aircraft is lined up for 33. Now, I believe the air trafficker at this point is trying to sequence these aircraft to get them down on the ground quicker and clear the runway quicker. But what effectively he's doing is he's setting up this potential confliction here with PAT-25 with this middle aircraft. And PAT-25 may have reduced SA because this aircraft, as far as he's concerned, could be acting out of the ordinary. That being said, the air trafficker does a good job to try to explain that to him in a second.
Jet 789, contact don't mark today.
Okay.
American 3130, for the final.
Well, American 3130.
Pat 25, traffic just south of Wilson Bridge to CRJ at 1,200 feet, start runway 33.
Okay, so I'll pause it here. At this point, Tower is trying to tell PAT-25 that there's an aircraft lining up for 33. Now, we don't hear PAT-25's response on this audio, but the assumption is that he acknowledges it.
Vis separation approved.
Okay, so vis separation approved has been given to PAT-25 from Tower, as we saw in that last clip there. I'll play that.
Vis separation approved.
Visual separation approved. PAT-25 is operating, I believe, under what they call special VFR. So if he's inside controlled airspace, this Class A airspace here, sorry, Class B airspace as it is, he's being told you're clear to approve with visual separation. That is effectively his clearance to continue, confirming that once he can see this aircraft here, he's allowed to continue along his flight path.
American 1630 Tower, runway 1, left void, traffic through Alpha, runway 33, dispatch 16 off final.
Left void, runway 1.
So aircraft are still being cleared to line up runway 1 while runway 33 is in use.
Whiskey 5307, keep rolling out to November, ground 47 today. American 16, turn to 1 star 32014, Galaxy 5.
So already we can see this controller is very busy. There's a lot happening here. He's got a lot of traffic to handle. It's getting probably a little bit stressful for him, but he's handling it, and moving these aircraft along. That being said, this is where, if I was an air trafficker at this point, I would be confirming, are you visual with this traffic? And, it's obviously where the point of the incident happens is about here. We can see these two aircraft closing distance at similar altitude, heading towards each other.
5, traffic 2 mile left base, runway 33, no delay, runway 1 clear for immediate takeoff.
Number 1, clear for takeoff, American 1630.
Okay, this is important. Right now, the tower controller is focused on the aircraft that's on runway 01, and I'll take it just back a second here. He says cleared for immediate takeoff, no delay. The reason he's saying that is he's trying to make sure that this aircraft that's landing, the CRJ 5342, isn't going to interfere or have a confliction with the American 1630 taking off. By that, he means that there's 01 crosses runway 33. So if you have an aircraft on short finals to runway 33, an aircraft taking off on 01 is very dangerous. So this is where his focus is right now. Another distraction from actually what is a greater threat, which is Pat 25, as he's traversing down by the river here. So lots of distractions for this air traffic controller.
Number 1, clear for takeoff, American 1630.
So at this point, there's a slight pause, but the controller is now switching his attention back to what is the next confliction as he sees it, which is this one here. In reality, if he'd held that aircraft on the ground, it would have delayed 3130 potentially, but it would have allowed him to focus on this confliction here and make sure that these two were separated. And I think this is a critical point where I would say that his attentions were perhaps not where they should have been.
Pat 25, get the CRJ in flight.
Okay, Pat 25, helicopter, low level, tracking down the river. This aircraft we heard was at 1,200 feet, coming in, lining up for the runway, turning motion. We've got 3130 here. I'm speculating here, but there's a good chance that Pat 25 at this point, by the result of the accident, he wasn't visual with 5342. Perhaps he was visual with 3130, but he thought it was 5342, and he thought he was going to be well clear. But the fact of the matter is, and I'm not a Black Hawk guy, I'm not an expert on the Black Hawk cockpit, but I can tell you in the Chinook, if there was traffic high in my 11 or 10 o'clock, it's possible that if I'm in the right-hand seat of the helicopter, I'm not going to see it due to the center console. If the left-hand seat has got his head down into the cockpit instruments, perhaps he's reading a map or he's preparing for the next phase of flight, then it's a very good chance that the left-hand seat's not going to be looking up to see this traffic. So the center console above the pilot where the throttles are, that could have been blocking where this pilot, the helicopter pilot, was looking for this aircraft. And if he saw this one in his 12 o'clock, there's a chance that he mistook the two, one for the other. And of course, air trafficker at this point is trying to confirm it. If the air trafficker was being ultra cautious, what he should potentially have done at this point is told Pat 25, hold present position, remain clear of the runway center line. That would have put Pat 25 into an orbit at this point. He could have turned a 60-knot orbit and maintained that position until air traffic was completely content with the fact that that 3-3 traffic was clear. Unfortunately, he didn't err on that side of caution, and the error went unchecked.
Pat 25, pass line is CRJ. Good separate.
So air traffic replies, VISSEP approved. Again, some speculation without hearing the cockpit voice recorders, but my belief at this stage is that Pat 25 was looking at this traffic and not this one, and got the two confused, and this one was just in a blind spot and outside of his vision.
American 472 by Baton, not burning visual.
American 472, Washington Tower, 1 star, 3Q.
Here's the moment of impact. I've seen this video zoomed in, and it's clear that the angle of confliction was close to 90 degrees, with the helicopter slightly below, and the helicopter was moving reasonably fast, judging by the video. We'll hear in the background here the reaction in the tower.
2017.
So at this point, I've seen some people speculating in the video here. I think we're looking kind of south west at this point. Southeast, I'm not terribly familiar with Washington, but obviously this is either a departing traffic or could be traffic further out. I'm not 100% certain that this aircraft is the one that the Black Hawk pilot was confused with, his visual separation with, but somebody who perhaps is closer, who knows Washington better, could outline that. But you can see the impact and the reaction in the tower. What comes next? Very quickly, you'll hear a change in the voice as the tower controller who was on duty is removed from the post, and a new controller comes in. I don't have much more to say. I think the news cycle's picked up everything from this point. One thing I will say is that the other aircraft that were in the pattern at this point, commend them for their professionalism. There was obviously a lot of chaos going on in the tower, and a lot of the pilots that were in the pattern did the safe thing and called their own go-arounds and kind of helped the new tower controller to come to get some order and recommend their courses of action. So hats off to them. But obviously a tragedy. In summary, change in runways, reduced situational awareness, blind spots in helicopters. I've heard some speculation that ADS-B, which is a transponder, wasn't turned on in the helicopter, which would have alerted the CRJ of the confliction. Another hole in the cheese that lined up, and ultimately it ended up in disaster for all involved. If I were to put a finger on the main causal factors, I'd say reduced situational awareness in nighttime operations, mixed traffic between helicopters, VFR, special VFR, and aircraft, on IFR for runways. I think the decision to put that aircraft on runway 33 did something potentially out of the ordinary that created a confused picture for Pat 25, and I think it's highly likely that Pat 25 had a blind spot, and I'm guessing his left-hand seat was just not visual with the aircraft, or perhaps had his head down in the cockpit and wasn't tracking at that critical moment. Bit of speculation, but that's what I think is the most likely cause of events.